Welcome to the Broncos podcast with Troy Renck on a somber Monday here in the Mile High City. What in the F happened at the end of that game? Broncos do everything to put themselves in a position to win a late drive, a chip shot field goal, and then a Chiefs block off party. A block off? I've seen a buck off, I've seen a walk off, and now I've seen a block off. Oh my God. Tell me it's not happening. As I wrote earlier in the week at the Denver Post, I'm over the Chiefs. Chiefs fatigue. It's settled in. I asked if there's a vaccine when I got a flu shot. They said no. And I wish I had had it when I was walking down to the locker room after that game. Listen, that is as stunned and angry and disappointed as I've seen a locker room for the Broncos since probably like their playoff loss against the Colts maybe in 2014. I'm trying to think of a more disappointing loss. I mean, I've heard that certainly that Ravens loss in 2012. I did not cover that. I came on the beat in 2014, but that was a blend of anger, disappointment, shock, numb. I mean, that's a field goal. I mean, Will Lutz has been nails. Their field goal operation team, for the most part, has been nails. But the Chiefs, to their credit, took advantage of something on the left side of the line. And on that kick, they couldn't block anyone on Twitter. I mean, it was just a jailbreak. Alex Forsythe looks the worst in it. He got trucked. His guy blocks the field goal, but there was Crump on the left side. His guy got inside of him. It looked like McGlinchey got a little vulnerable and extended. I mean, there was like four guys on that side, and three basically got penetration, which is insane on a field goal that doesn't involve like high school or low-level college. You see that once in a while. You almost never see that kind of jailbreak in the NFL. You'll see a block, but it's usually from the center with some big paw up. I mean, this guy practically caught the ball jumping across. But listen, it's disappointing. It hurts. But as I wrote in the post today, as crazy as it sounds, I think while everyone's saying they're going to miss the postseason, I think this loss is going to be the reason they go. That if this team is who Sean Payton thinks they are, this will be the final level, the feel, the switch, the one last test to remind them that they're not there yet. They're not a finished product. They have work to do, and that they need to finish to get to the playoffs. And there's still a path, folks, but I'll get into that a little bit later. But this is about dealing with the pain, exercising the demon of this pain. What went wrong? What were the players saying? How will they respond? And listen, the final thing, and why, if you're a Broncos fan and you're taking the view of 10,000 feet, they got their quarterback. I'm not saying he's Elway, Manning, and all that. I'm not saying that. But they got their guy. They got their guy in Bo Nix. And so, again, for the second straight week, he stood in the flames, in the fire, and he goes toe-to-toe for the most part with, an MVP-type player on the road. Very encouraged by that. And so that's something to look forward to, but that's hard to see and feel right now because of the disappointment and pain, Broncos country. It's leading to conspiracy theories. It's leading to anger. But we're going to try to provide perspective on this, how it happened, what it means, where they go from there, and why you should still have a hope that this season could end up in a surprise with their first postseason berth since Super Bowl 50. That's all coming up for the break. Have you been injured in a car wreck or hurt at work? What are you waiting for? Give my friends at Hoggett Injury Law a call. Their motto, with us, it's personal. It's because it is. I've known Darby Hoggett forever. We traveled the country watching our boys play baseball. I coached his son in basketball. I became Darby's good friend. He becomes good friends with most of his clients. You don't even have to pay Darby up front. If your case goes as planned, Darby will be the one writing checks to you. So again, if you've been hurt in a car wreck or injured at work, give Darby's team a call. That number, 1-833-HOGGATT. That's 1-833-HOGGET. Or visit the website at hoggettlaw.com. BetOnline is the most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. From the earliest odds to in-game live betting, BetOnline provides all the action and the ability to watch the games as they happen. with the largest selection of odds and everything from football, NBA, and college hoops, even NHL, UFC, and MMA. Head to Bet Online today. Get in on the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. Bet Online, the game starts here. Welcome back, folks. This is Troy Renck, Denver Post, the Broncos podcast. Well, the pain starts here. There's no amount of aspirin, there's no amount of words, there's no amount of ice packs that can soothe what Broncos Country is feeling this morning. And it's not just a loss and a painful loss, it's because it's to the Chiefs. Let's be honest. It's their 9th straight loss in Arrowhead. And as I did a huge piece on Sunday about the last team to win there was 2015 with Peyton Manning refusing to go gently into that deep night. And Brandon Marshall dislocates his finger, causes a fumble, and Bradley Roby with the scoop and score. And here was going to be this bookend where the fresh start, Broncos walk the Chiefs. And instead, they're sitting here today wondering what the hell happened. And I'm not going to make excuses for anyone. Alex Forsythe's a fascinating story. If you read his background, I did a column about him over the summer. He's overcome a lot in his life, dealing with some loss of his father to find his way through football, get to Oregon. He was at Oregon with Bo Nix. He was his center there. In my conversations with Alex multiple times over the last several months, he's one of the smartest, brightest, most caring guys. I mean, he was devastated afterward, and I was the only one that talked to him. And he makes no excuses. I got to be stouter. You know, they didn't surprise us. I got to be stouter. He got trucked on that play. I'm not going to try to paint it anything other than that. But there's something about that formation on that left side that caused the Chiefs to see it as vulnerable, because they just showed on ESPN on Get Up all of the Broncos' extra points and their field goal attempts. And each one, they got increasingly closer to blocking the field goal with guys coming from the left side. So they clearly saw something. Andy Reid, after the game, said that they had scouted it and they felt like there was a chance they could get a block. So, and again, I'm not taking blame off Forsythe, but the Broncos were revealing something on special teams that the Chiefs saw as a weakness, that, hey, if we get into a big moment, we're going to try to do that. And they overloaded that side, and it wasn't an illegal formation. There weren't 7 on the line. You can have 6. They had 6, and it was essentially 4 really bunched up over 3 guys with Crump, Forsythe, and then you have McGlinchey, and then there was Miners. And the problems were with Crump and certainly with Forsythe and a little bit with McGlinchey. But that's good coaching. As much as it pains people to say, like, there's a reason the Chiefs win, even though I can't see any way in hell they stay undefeated. I see they'll lose at Buffalo or to Buffalo. They're not that team anymore. They're a good team, and they can win late, which is an unbelievable quality. But they have been literally walking on glass here for the last month, and they've got a horseshoe so far up their ass, you'd have to do a colonoscopy to find it. Like, that's just how they're living right now. And listen, they put themselves in position to win those games. So while I'll say, hey, they're a lucky team, part of it is you put yourself in position to have good luck. And yes, it feels like at times the officials on their side. The call on Brandon Jones led to their only touchdown. It was a bullshit call, in my opinion. But again, is that what lost the game for the Broncos? No. Again, the problem with the Broncos and the Chiefs, they operate with no margin for an error. So you can look at that call. You can look at one where maybe Nick Bonito had Mahomes in the grass that would have changed the drive. But ultimately, you had a chance as the Broncos to control the outcome with a field goal, a chip shot. It was really an extra point. 35-yarder is essentially an extra point now. You got to make that kick. And I'm going to be curious as to what Sean Payton says on Monday about that, the breakdown. And if this had happened any other year but the last 2 years, I would say this is no surprise. The Broncos special teams since Super Bowl 50 have been a raging tire fire for 6 years. Awful. Under multiple coordinators. From, was it Alibo? It was like Brock Alibo, Dwayne, I can't remember his last name, the guy that was with Hackett, Tom, whatever hell his name was. Every one of them, it was always, whether it's weird geometry, weird press conferences, no athletes on special teams. Pick something. Bad punters. As much as we all like Brandon McManus, it felt like he hadn't made a clutch kick in 5 years. He was living off 2015 as much as Von Miller or anyone else on that team. And Lutz had made a few clutch kicks. His biggest one was at Buffalo last year. It was kind of comes with an asterisk because he got a second chance with Buffalo having an extra man on the field, too many men on the field. And so they win that game. And is it karma for that then he gets blitzed on this one? Lutz was beside himself, and we're going to hear that sound shortly. But you got to execute that. And Mike Westhoff and Ben Kotwicki, their special teams coaches, have turned them into one of the best special teams units in the league. Whether it's punt return coverage, kickoff return, kick coverage, fake plays, like they have been part of all of that. The trick plays, and then in a huge moment, there's just absolute meltdown. And there's consequences to that. I would guess we're not going to see foresight on that unit anymore. Andrew Mason, a friend of mine who works at the Fan, he said that on 8 of the last 10 field goal attempts and or extra points, teams have pushed foresight back into the backfield. So it's clearly something teams saw as a weakness, and it's like you're waiting as a pitcher. I'm like, I'm going to hold back my screwball or my changeup, so I'm going to go curve, slider, and then in the one moment, in the biggest moment I need a strikeout, I'm going to throw this changeup. And they threw it, and the Broncos had no answer. And that locker room afterward, guys were pissed. I mean, you can understand why. You win that game and go to 6-4. For me, you're in the playoffs basically. At 5-5 now, as I tweeted during the Ravens game against the Bengals on Thursday, that Bengals game in December could very well be a play-in game. But the Broncos have everything in their sights still. You play the Colts at home. You play the Falcons at home, the Browns at home, the Colts at home, Vegas on the road. You could have, in theory, 9 wins before you even get to that Bengals game. But now you have no margin for error. You would have if you won that game. You would have. But how are the players going to respond? How is this team going to respond? Peyton has told us this team has got grit. They're mentally tough. They're physically tough. It's a different group than a year ago. And I've observed that in the locker room. No question the camaraderie is better. Guys are invested more than I've seen in, probably since 2016. But it's all going to feel fraudulent. It's all going to feel like a scam to just bring in hope if they don't finish this. And you'll say, Troy, you picked them to win 6 games. I did. But the AFC sucks this year. Have you seen washed up Aaron Rodgers play? Have you seen the Dolphins? Like the AFC, all these teams we thought were going to be in and aren't very good. The Colts with Joe Flacco, he's aging in dog years again, like a normal 39-year-old. So it really comes down to the Broncos and Bengals for the 7th spot. That would have never been predicted before the season. The Broncos playing their way they are right now, you'd think, yeah, they've got no shot. They're going to go win 8 games, 7 or 8 games, and you're encouraged. And now the playoffs, they need to, the only way you alleviate that hurt is A, beat the Chiefs at the last game of the season. Maybe they're playing their stars, maybe they're not. But the only way you alleviate is go to the playoffs and have a winning record. That is how the season will be remembered. If you're the team to break the 8-game drought or the 8-year drought without the playoffs and the 7 straight losing seasons, that will supersede this one loss against the Chiefs. If you don't have a winning season and you don't go to the playoffs, that Chiefs game will take on added significance, unfortunately. That's the reality of it, folks. That's where they are. But how are they going to handle it? I had a chance to be in the locker room yesterday. I asked Malcom Roach a question. You can hear from Will Lutz. So the order of this, Big A's behind the screen too. I want to make sure I have the order right. I guess I hopped on like a 5 a.m. flight from Kansas City. So give me a little bit of grace here today, folks. I'm trying to wake up. I don't use caffeine anymore. I haven't for years. So sometimes these early mornings at my age can be a little challenging. But we got Malcom Roach, we got Riley Moss, and we got Will Lutz talking about what happened on that field goal and how will this Broncos team respond.
We got to clean up the mistakes, be better, and we got to be better. We got to come back to work Monday morning. Get ready to go to work and be better, man. Make sure we don't put ourselves in that predicament. We coming down where the game's that close, man. We got to take it. When you're playing the champs, you got to take it, man, because they always believe they could win at the end of the day. They just made one more play than us today.
What was Sean's message to you guys after the game?
Sean been in a lot of these, man, from Minnesota to the Rams game. Just gotta keep chopping wood, man. Games like this supposed to hurt. We see the faces on everybody in this locker room, man. It's supposed to hurt because we so invested, man. Everybody come work the tail off every day, man, and we see it, man. And if you're not invested in it, it wouldn't feel this way. It wouldn't feel this bad, man. But we know where we want to go. We know where we're trying to go. We know what we're fighting to do. At the end of the day, we got to keep showing up and keep going and working, man. We got to give this city something to be proud of, man. And we got to get the job done.
Can you take any solace? Coach said there was penetration on the left side. Is that what you kind of observed?
That's not for me to say. Our job as a field goal unit is to put it through the uprights and they go through.
Will, what are your emotions right now? Obviously, this is everything you play for, and it was right there, and then to have it taken away from you.
Yeah, I've been in a lot of tough games. I've lost games in tough ways, and that one's up there. So hopefully we can learn from it and be able to finish off the next one.
Just the way that the final drive unfolded, I mean, you must have been thinking this is just setting up perfect. You get the first down, you get a chance to keep Pat off the field. Kind of all lined up, didn't it?
Yeah, hey, hats off to the offense. Finishing in a position to win that game, and the defense too, all game long. So our job as a field goal unit is to finish off the game, and we weren't able to do that.
Did it feel good off the foot?
Yeah, and felt good, but not a moral victory.
It's they say football is a humbling game, right? And that's why we love it. I still love the game of football after this. It sucks, but at the same time, wear it on the chin, and there's things that we can get better at, and it's a positive thing. There were some really good things that we did as a team today, and it's exciting, and it's a long season. We still got some games left, and we can't let this game become something that bleeds into some other games. So I thought we came out and played a great game, and we got to continue to get better.
Riley, last one for you. Coach was just saying this was going to sting for a while. How hard is this going to be to flush versus last week's game? Completely different games, completely different emotions out of games.
Yeah, you put in, the entire week, you put in so much work, and then, to get that close to winning, and, it gets taken away like that, and, it sucks. Like I said, though, you got to be able to, flush it and move on and not allow it to become a bigger.
Yeah, listen, that order there, now it's my fault. So we had Malcom Roach, kicker Will Lutz, and then cornerback Riley Moss. Moss went on to say later, too, like, hey, we were junkyard dogs out there. We were playing with passion, angry, like we were up to the challenge. Like he was still excitable after it because they were so, they were pleased with how they played defensively. They caught a break, too. I mean, Patrick Mahomes had a wide open Kelsey in the end zone that would have basically killed any hope for the Broncos, and he overthrows him, leading them to kick a field goal that put them up 16-14, giving Denver a chance for the win. But for the most part, they contained Mahomes. He didn't do anything particularly special. I mean, he has a touchdown to Kelsey. Jaquan McMillan got confused. It looked on the way they bunched him on the motion, and he slipped. He's had that problem happen a few times. He's been a terrific player for them, but I mean, if we're going to go very specific into things, he had a chance there, and he slipped, and Kelsey gets a touchdown. But they contained Mahomes. The Chiefs didn't rush on him. That's encouraging as well. If you're going to be a good team, and that's what Peyton had talked about last week, is got to run the ball. We got to stop the run. Well, they were good in both those categories, or better. I mean, folks, Audric Estime's the starter, right? No more questions? Who says no? I tried to tell you when I wrote my column last Monday, Estime's got to be the guy. It's nothing personal against Javonte Williams. His comeback story is fantastic, but you can't tell the story through the comeback anymore. It's about production in the NFL. The NFL is as sentimental as a parking ticket. Nobody cares. It's about production. That's why days like this are hard. When you fail as a player or as a unit, well, Estime got his opportunity, and he was right at 15 for 60. He was better, and it was like 3.8 yards a carry. But like those last 3-4 carries, he's literally just pounding it into the line to set up a field goal. So it's a little deceiving, but he looked better. He looked kind of how Javonte used to look his rookie year. So going forward, I would expect to see a steady diet of Estime. That's a good sign. This team when they talk about responding, they have a different chemistry to them, a camaraderie, a caring about the guy next to them that I haven't seen manifest itself since probably 16. There were pockets of guys who cared that way over the last 8 years, but this team feels different, but they got to prove it. They got to prove it. And I will say this, and it's not playing the blame game, but for those of you who want to attack Alex Forsythe, remember, for a couple weeks there, he was the starting center and did a hell of a job while Luke Wattenberg was back. Wattenberg came back against the Chiefs and replaced him, and Wattenberg played fine. But Forsythe played well as a center. I thought he might even keep his starting job. He played that well. But when you want to blame Forsythe, I understand it. I do. But let's not forget, in the second quarter, the Broncos are driving. With 15 seconds left, they get down to the 37-yard line. They're getting in position for a field goal right before halftime, and Cortland Sutton gets offsides. He's not lined up on a spike. And then 2 plays later, he drops a ball. And listen, he's been their best offensive player. Well, I'd say Nix has because of expectation, age, no. But Sutton's right there. Sutton can make one of the greatest catches you've ever seen in your life. But each game, he has a penalty or a drop that, again, when you are of his standing with his experience, he's got to clean it up. So I'm just saying, if you want to take out Forsythe, don't forget, right before half, they should have been in position for another field goal that would have been roughly a 38, 40-yarder if Sutton catches the ball. Or even if he doesn't get the offsides penalty, they're kicking a 52-yarder at the buzzer instead of a 60-yarder that had no chance. So it's a reminder that the Broncos have to learn to finish and that they're not a finished product. They're not. And when you step back and you let some time get away from this game, because it's going to hurt and you want it to hurt. And you want it to see the pain I saw in that locker room, as weird as it sounds, that's a good sign. I've been in locker rooms where they lost, where it was a lot more me and a lot less we. I did mine. I got mine. Or that the defense stunk, or it was the offense. They weren't pointing fingers in there. Yeah, guys are pissed and under their breath. I know, I get it. But the way you move forward as a team is don't play the blame game. In the media, we can do it. As Broncos country, you certainly be passionate about it. That's it. But if this team is going to move forward, and if this team who Sean Payton thinks they are, they have to show the resilience and be mentally tough to get through this stretch. And typically in years past, the schedule wouldn't allow it. This schedule, folks, allows for them to rebound. You got the Falcons coming up. It's a tough matchup. Kirk Cousins has been balling. Justin Simmons comes back. Can't wait to see him. But the Falcons just lost to the Saints. I get it. Saints get the interim coach bump. Saints stink. And the Broncos have owned the NFC South. So you got to rebound. You got to win at home. You've got to win at home. You got to beat Cleveland at home. You got to beat Atlanta at home. You got to beat the Colts at home. No excuses. And maybe the playoff berth doesn't come down to Cincinnati, but that last game of the season of the Chiefs. Because if the Chiefs lose to the Bills, they could still be playing for home field advantage in that last game of the season. Bills only have 2 losses. Chiefs would have 1. So if they were to lose to Denver the last game of the season, they could lose a tiebreaker. In a weird way, you could root for the Bills to lose. Chiefs keep winning, which I would never suggest rooting for the Chiefs at this point after what just happened on Sunday. But from a Broncos perspective, you'd want the Chiefs to have a 2-game lead with 1 to play, because I think they would sit their starters. But I will say this team would want to face the Chiefs with all their guys. I don't think this team's just scared of the Chiefs based on how they've played them the last 2 times. They beat them 24-9 in Denver last year. Mahomes was awful in that game. And then this year, they should have beaten them. I don't rarely say it wasn't a could have. They should have beaten them. A 35-yard field goal in the NFL is a chip shot. Will Lutz, I don't think, has ever missed one with the Broncos under 40 that wasn't blocked. So he doesn't miss them, but he's had a couple blocked. They got to address it. They have no margin for error, folks. They have no margin for error. And what played out on Sunday, being in that place, in that stadium, it's a reminder of everything we love and hate about sports, where you're full throat, you can't believe it, all your dreams are going to be realized, and within a second, you got a kicker scrambling after a ball that's on the turf, and it feels like, darkness has come over your life. And that's part of being a fan. That's so hard. But it's why I do the podcast. It's why I do what I do in the media. Like, those moments are what makes sports. And at some point, the Broncos are going to turn the corner. They've had their blinker on for 8 years. At some point, they're going to be at this intersection and turn the corner. And that's why there's so much left to play for. And if you want it, we'll finish with this. If you want to walk away with a little hope, because I want you to understand that I understand your pain and why you're pissed off. I'm not going to diminish that in any way. But I will say, if you want to walk away with a morsel of optimism after one of the toughest, just heart in a blender loss, think about how Bo Nix played. Think about how Bo Nix played. Because that is how, and ultimately this season will be defined, is through the lens of Bo Nix. And all Bo Nix did was go 22 of 30, 215 yards, 2 touchdowns, 115.3 rating. No rookie quarterback had ever beaten Mahomes there. Only Justin Herbert has ever beaten Spagnuolo as their defensive coordinator, and he had him on the ropes. Nix, he took a couple of really bad sacks, one for 16 and one for 17 yards. He's still learning. When these guys do fire blitzes from the corner, or the safety blitz, you got to just throw the ball in the dirt. You can't run backward in the NFL. They're too fast. They're too good. Their angles are better. But the thing about Nix is we don't see him repeating mistakes. Early in the season against Seattle and Pittsburgh, in those cases, he'd run around, he'd throw a pick, throw across his body, throw into double coverage. When is the last time we saw him do that? He doesn't put the ball on the ground. He doesn't really put it in harm's way. Remember last week we said, man, if he'd only completed that pass to Troy Franklin, maybe they're in that game. I don't think they ever would have won it, but maybe they're in that game and it changes the complexion of the game. Similar situation this time. Play action. He connects with Cortland Sutton on a 32-yard pass, almost an identical play. And this time, a perfect pass. So those are things you can take from it, is your young quarterback refuses to flinch. He plays with unfailing confidence. He's playing with an athleticism. And when he completed the 3rd and 6 pass to Sutton that gave them the first down and gave him a chance to drain the clock, you should have seen the reaction by McGlinchey, and I think it was Miners, running over to him, just exulting, like, yes, man, yes, you did it. Like they know they've got a guy. It's not always going to be perfect, but they're in a better position now because this kid is winning over the locker room. I'm hoping he's winning over Broncos Country because I'm telling you, there's something there, folks. The ceiling might not be as high as you want, but the athleticism, the intelligence, the instincts, positional football, all of this stuff, we're seeing progress, growth. And if he continues to do that and they leave this season 9-8 and they make the playoffs, you got something finally that feels like roots. You got your quarterback, you got your coach, and now let's go get some offensive weapons. Because that's really the weak spot of this team. The defense played well enough to win. They only allowed, 300 total yards to the Chiefs in 65 plays. And the offense, the Broncos offense hurt. I mean, they got 10 yards on their first 3 drives after halftime. That inability to stay on the field compromises the defense a little bit. But the defense delivered. Now, there were no turnovers in this game. Usually one pick in that game turns it, and Mahomes didn't have one. Zach Allen had one shot at one. I'm not going to go crazy and hold a defensive lineman with his hands taped saying you should have caught it. But, I mean, he would feel that way because he's so competitive. But the one takeaway, the one soothing balm on this headache that's going to last like you just had about 20 shots of tequila last night will be the play of Bo Nix. So let it hurt. Let the pain be real, folks. I get it, Broncos Country. But understand, there's a way out at 5-5. There's still a path to a winning record. There's still a path to the playoffs. And there's still reason for optimism because of the play of your rookie quarterback in Bo Nix. Folks, I hope you enjoyed it. They got Falcons this week, the return of Justin Simmons, and they're going to need you. I can guarantee in that locker room they're going to be saying, we need Broncos Country out there. This becomes their next biggest game of the season, because if they lose another home game, the math really starts to work against them. Even though the Falcons are an NFC team, it's really an issue of they don't have the margin for error anymore. You can't lose home games at this point, especially a home game they're favored. It's basically a pick 'em game. I think the line's shifted to once the Saints beat the Falcons. I think it's might be 1.5 for the Broncos now. Very winnable game. Folks, you're the best. I could not do this without Big A behind the board, who produces this pod, and you got to check all his stuff out on Mile High Sports. He's doing Buff stuff, Broncos stuff, Rocky stuff. He's everywhere. He's amazing. I couldn't do it without Nate Lundy of Mile High Sports and this platform he provides. Certainly my guy from A1 from day one, Darby Hoggett of Hoggett Injury Law and Bet Online, our new sponsor. Broncos Country, even on days like this, I do the pod for you. Happiness, that begins with me. Go out there and have a great day.